happy to share my research on esports. I have researched for esports for so long, and esports for me personally as the window of the world to explore the lifestyle of the Generation Z and explore the digital infrastructure has transformed throughout the history. So today I would like to share my current research. First of all, let's look at what is the basic understanding of esports. I would like to give you some important statistics to coin the importance of esports right now. First of all, let's see, when you're looking at the global audience growth, in particular number that is in terms of the 300 millions that has approached around 2020. That is the first important peak of the global esports. And the second statistic is looking at the revenue, in particular over 15% that has comes from the games, comes from the US and China. And then the third important statistic in terms of the revenue through the platforms. So we can easily figure out that actually Tencent has been the most important platforms right now, and also there is a slight change from PC to mobile games. And what is esports? I personally would like to emphasize by the Dennis Hadfield, who is the first person to coin the definition of esports. So he put up the definition: esports is alternative sport reality. That is to electronically extend the athlete in digital represented sporting world. And also the important thing for me is he slightly changed his definition after 10 years. So he coined that esports as an electronically extended human action in computerly aided and generated sporting world. So for me, esports is not just about sport. It's more than sport. It's a way to understand the people who interacted with the computing, the mobiles, the smart medium in the future. So nevertheless, what kind of media formats? It's all about the digital skill sets of those people. I mean, the young people, the athletes or the gamers who have content. So now, in terms of my research lab, what I'm doing right now is trying to make up the story have been ranking for so long. No one have really answered directly what exactly the digital skill sets of those young players that they have. So we're trying to use a lot of software, equipment, and the scientific methods, trying to understand what exact skills that they have. In terms of the second part, I'm trying to give you some of the ideas about the critical powers in China. You know that China actually is the leading market on esports, of course, including the gaming market. I have defined the Chinese esports platforms as an umbrella structure because the umbrella clause refers to the regulation and platformization of infrastructure. And in terms of umbrella stand, this concept to help understand the growth of the value chain and multi-sided platforms. So how the umbrella clause will stand that could negotiate, constructed, constituted, or completed by each other. So, first of all, the most important thing for the umbrella clause, there are three important years that we can call the golden year or the driving forces in terms of the historical moments. In 2003, the General Administration of the Sport in China have approved the esports as official sport. And in 2016, China has surpassed the United States as the world's leading digital market on games. In 2018, the revenue from online and offline PC mobile games in China has exceeded $91.2 billion, which is a huge market. Okay, so that is the basic historical moments. And in Chinese, in particular, looking at the regulatory infrastructure, the esports has attribute of the entertainment, sport, medium, which is influenced by the various policies. So the important and interesting thing is actually over 6 departments of China that have scrutinize, monitor the Chinese esports development. And also, when you're looking at the list of the policies launched in China, even though you think that, oh, it looks like there's still a lot of policy to support esports over the past of years, in particular from 2003 to 2015. However, when comparing those policies launched with the traditional sport, there's quite a few, okay? Which means that the Chinese esports has also suffered a lot of challenges when you're looking back to the historical moments. And in 2016, which is a very important changing year, because actually we call that Chinese esports entering a new stage, because there are 4 administration states launched a series of the policies to support that importing the technology for other countries, encourage the industry to develop to improve the development of mobile games, live streaming services, or VR technology. And the third, they would like to encourage the funding initiatives tournaments internationally or nationally. Okay? And the last one, to encourage the Chinese college and university to offer the professional esports courses. So right now, actually, there are over 120 esports courses have established now in China. But the point is, right now, I'm trying to develop my esports courses and the textbooks to help those market, or at least to help those the course leaders to understand how we could lead in the teaching or education in those areas. Okay? Because personally, I don't believe that we could really teach those talents. The talents should be deployed. Okay? And also, when you're looking at the Chinese government's role, which I could try to naming them as a driving forces, which means that they are laying the foundation for the further development, which also means that esports in China is not a top-down development. It has evolved as the bottom-up industry. And because the huge market has attracted a lot of political forces, to understand that is important. So that's why I have to demonstrate that esports in China is always a bottom-up. Unlike the career governments, they are actually trying to monitor it at the top-down way. Okay. And also in terms of the understand in China, the most important thing is you were looking at those upstream, the middle stream, and the bottom stream. Where is the grassroots role can easily to engage those value chain? I brought up this question because it's very important to looking at like Tencent or NetEase or Perfect World, those kind of leading companies, how this build up their empire on those value chains. So Tencent now is the leading company. One of my papers published is trying to explore how Tencent has built up its infrastructure of platformization as a loop to build up its value chain. So when you're looking at when you're looking at the upper middle stream, it's very important to looking at how they try to investigate the external gaming company by their own. So for example, they have invested the companies in Korea, right, and also in United States, and also Sweden and France. So they're very smart to how to build up their upper stream to determine the driving forces. And in terms of the middle stream, which I call is the institutional to organize the tournaments. Okay, so it will easy to figure out actually Tencent has built up its power to control over a third of the revenue generated by global companies. So when looking at the role of the middle stream, Tencent has become a major executive gaming league. For example, like the PPL, PCC, and PLC, LPL. Okay, and second, Tencent they have to build up their own branding, TGA. Even though TGA right now has been temporarily stopped because for some certain reasons, but the most important is the most attractive things. if they have a great prize pool. Okay, so that's very important because when you're looking at the historical development in Japan, the Japanese policies has limited the prize pool on esports. That is why comparing with the gaming industry with the esport in Japan, actually Japan has a very promising gaming market, but they don't have a very huge market on esport because one of the important reasons is about the prize pool that has limited by policies. And third, the top clubs of China's LPLs, for example, are supported by Tencent. So they are very clever to build up its physical infrastructure by locating those clubs in those top cities in China. And also, on the bottom stream, okay, so Tencent has employed the mass live stream broadcasting platforms. For example, Douyu, which is a very important platform in China, also invested by and owned by Tencent. So we're looking at the whole roles that has generated by Tencent. I would say he's a major user of the game content, he's a major executive of the gaming league, and also established the live broadcast industry chain to build up the loop of the logic for involvement. Okay, so that is why when I asked them, why you not prefer like NetEase rather than Tencent? But they say it's nearly impossible because the opportunity loss of cost is extremely high. And of course, on one hand, because of the Tencent's leading power, the esport can be easily to expand it in a lot of places. But at the same time, when esport has been included into Olympic Games and in Asian Games, we have to consider about how to manage the social welfare, to answer the IOC those questions, how to help those young people to be more sustainable, and how to answer the ethics problems or issues like risk that might have during those all of this industrial development. So I have tried to map what is the logic of the infrastructure of platformization of Tencent as one example. Okay, but do remember that now because of my eSport lab is trying so hard to understand the skill sets of this talent, answer those IOC's questions. What exactly the social welfare that could bring to those young people. And the last part, I would quickly share some of ideas I have. First of all, I have tried to develop this kind of conceptual framework to understand how those young people's career could be sustainable. So I have used the PO system to map their whole career's development. And the most important thing is in China, because we have a long history on the cultural value side, that how those parents could support their children to go for the professional routes, because how to balance the means as a cultural value if their children has tried to give up their study and try to give up from school and jump into the professional class. So they have to balance, because for most of the important reason for those young people I have interviewed is trying to prove to their parents this is a professional occupation and I could look modeling as a usual as some others, like others, to give them the understanding this is not the bad things. I have to prove in a professional way. So sometimes I will feel so sorry about, I've also had some of the story that the public or the parents are still misunderstanding esport. But of course, we have opportunity to try and persuade them as a more scientific methods, okay? For example, one of the important answers from my interviewee said, it's not just a decision that we have to make for quitting the studies, but also actually a significant challenge for our parents, and we will not be able to accept such a non-mainstream educational path. So that is one of the important case. However, like I said, how to prove as a professional? I keep asking them, are you athlete? Are you sure you're athlete? How? Are you sure you're athlete? When I keep asking them, try to explore whether they have a very clear ideas of how to self-training or training by the professional institutions. So first of all, one of the interesting story that from my coach said he tried to persuade one of his students for several times, tried to persuade the parents, and one of the answers that finally persuaded his parents by saying, "Hey uncle, you said play the billionaire might have been a roach action 20 years ago, but now it's a gentleman activity. Similarly, esports has great potential as a generic social activity in the near future. So it has been upgraded in the new cultural heights and accepted by the mainstream society." So you can see people are looking forward the future, and also we are waiting for the important moments that could support what we could understand mainstream society. Okay? So before 2011, it's really hard for those young players to persuade the parents, to persuade the public that they are professional. They still have the powerless to refute the stigma and the prejudice. However, after 2011, there are at least three important forces to persuade them. First, because the Chinese government has facilitated the policy to support that political signals. And second, the regional level governing bodies that, for example, Xi'an, Chengdu, Shanghai, Kaifeng, for example, have launched a lot of policies to bring in the talents, okay, to support their career. And the third, and the most important, is the news. The mainstream news agencies start to, I would say, broadcast those esports professionals as heroes. They got the championship and the important tournaments. And also the most important in terms of their capital power, like Wang Zitong, who is a very outstanding new second generation of the entrepreneurship in China, have also supported this whole industry by their own glory. So he invests a lot of money, and also he has, for example, established the ACE for the nation to establish some rules to regulate the whole industry. So that is very important at that year. Okay? And also the most important is about the young players themselves. It's about how they could learn the system. For example, they learn from the NBA's training system and value chain. And also then they have totally understand their very harsh recruitment system. They have to practice. And they have to, and some of the capital supported esports clubs, they have to employ the psychological counseling, the team management, and the skill sets to help those young people to give a very well-founded training system. Okay? So the most important is to help those young people self-development as a sustainable career. And now I found that the players employ the meritocratic discourses to embody in the sport practice and internally their work as a professional pursuits. So what we see, in particular in the Hangzhou Asian Games, there are also a lot of positive signals to understand those young people have tried to make themselves as role model, okay, to self-disciplined by their own understanding. So we need to give them more time. That's the most important changing for the lifestyle consumed by now for the contemporary understanding for the Generation Z. Okay, so now because of timing, I don't have time to explain more research. If you are interested, you can contact me by email, and we can set up our own conference. And thank you very much. Thank you.